Hey everyone. Get cozy, settle into a comfy position, and let these calming tales whisk you away to a peaceful night's sleep. Drop a comment below on what time and from where you are watching this video and share your own late-night ritual that helps you drift off. The wind howled outside Hogwarts, rattling the ancient windows of the castle as rain lashed against the stone walls. Inside, the corridors were quiet, save for the occasional creak of a suit of armor or the distant hum of a ghost drifting through the walls. It was well past midnight, and the students were supposed to be tucked away in their dormitories, dreaming of spells and Quidditch. But not Elira Vayne. Elira, a third-year Ravenclaw with a mop of chestnut curls and eyes that gleamed like polished amber, crept through the dimly lit halls, her wand tip glowing faintly with a whispered lumos. Her heart pounded, not from fear of being caught. She dodged Filch and his wretched cat more times than she could count, but from the thrill of what she might find. The rumors had started weeks ago, whispered in the common rooms and passed like contraband sweets. A hidden chamber in Hogwarts, one not even the professors knew about, filled with secrets older than the castle itself. She'd overheard the Slytherins talking in the library, their voices low and urgent. "It's in the West Wing," one had said, a boy with a sharp jaw and sharper eyes. "A door that only opens for those who know the right words." Elira had been tucked behind a stack of dusty tomes, pretending to study advanced potion-making, but her ears had pricked at the mention of a secret door. She wasn't one to let a mystery pass her by. Now, as she rounded a corner near the charms classroom, her breath caught. The air felt different here, heavier like it was holding its breath. A tapestry hung on the wall, depicting a knight battling a wyvern, its threads shimmering faintly in the wandlight. Elira's fingers brushed the fabric and a chill ran down her spine. The knight's eyes seemed to follow her, and for a moment she swore the wyvern's tail twitched. "Ridiculous," she muttered, shaking off the unease. She was no first year jumping at shadows. She raised her wand higher, scanning the wall. The Slytherins had mentioned a phrase, something about the heart of the castle. Elira frowned, her mind racing through possibilities. She'd read half the library by now, and Hogwarts history was riddled with cryptic nonsense. But then she remembered a line from Hogwarts. A history, one she'd skimmed over because it seemed unimportant. The castle's heart beats where shadows dance. "Sur cordis saltat," she whispered, translating the phrase into Latin, the language of old magic. The air shimmered and the tapestry rippled like water. A seam appeared in the stone wall, glowing faintly blue, and with a groan, a door materialized, its surface carved with runes that pulsed like heartbeats. Elira's pulse quickened. She reached for the handle, but before she could touch it, a voice hissed behind her. "What do you think you're doing, Vayne?" She spun around, wand raised, to find Cassian Blackthorn leaning against the wall, his Slytherin tie loosened and his dark hair falling into his eyes. He was the sharp-jawed boy from the library, and his smirk told her he wasn't surprised to see her here. "Exploring," she said coolly, lowering her wand but keeping her grip tight. "What's it to you?" Cassian pushed off the wall, his movements lazy but deliberate. "That door's not for you. It's not for anyone who doesn't know what they're getting into. And you do." Elira shot back, her curiosity warring with her irritation. Cassian was a fourth year, known for his charm and his knack for trouble. He was also infuriatingly good at keeping secrets. "More than you," he said, stepping closer. His eyes flicked to the door and for a moment, his smirk faltered. "That chamber's dangerous, Vayne. People have gone in and not come out." "Then why are you here?" she asked, folding her arms. Cassian hesitated, and that was when Elira knew he was hiding something. Before she could press him, a low rumble echoed from the door and the runes flared brighter. The air grew colder and a whisper, faint but unmistakable, slithered through the corridor. "Enter if you dare." Elira's breath hitched, but she didn't flinch. Cassian, however, took a step back, his wand now drawn. "Did you hear that?" he asked, his voice low. "Of course I did," Elira snapped, though her stomach twisted. The whisper hadn't sounded human, it was too hollow, too old. But she wasn't about to let Cassian see her falter. "I'm going in. You can stay out here and play lookout if you're scared." Cassian's eyes narrowed, but he didn't argue. "Fine. But if we die, I'm blaming you." The door creaked open at Elira's touch, revealing a spiral staircase descending into darkness. The air that wafted up was damp and smelled of ancient stone and something metallic, like blood or rust. Elira's lumos barely pierced the gloom, but she started down the stairs, her footsteps echoing. Cassian followed, close enough that she could feel his presence but not so close that she could accuse him of hovering. The staircase seemed endless, twisting deeper into the castle's foundations. The walls were slick with moisture, and strange symbols glowed faintly, pulsing in time with the runes on the door above. Elira's mind raced. She recognized some of the symbols from her studies, ancient wards meant to protect or imprison. But what? At the bottom, the staircase opened into a vast chamber, its ceiling lost in shadow. Pillars of black stone rose like silent sentinels, each carved with faces that seemed to shift and writhe in the wand light. In the center of the room stood a circular platform, and on it, a pedestal holding a single object, a crystal orb no larger than a quaffle, glowing with a soft, silvery light. "What is that?" Cassian whispered, his voice barely audible. Elira didn't answer. She was drawn to the orb, her feet moving before her mind could catch up. As she approached, the air grew thick, and the whispers returned, louder now, overlapping in a cacophony of voices. Seeker, knower, betrayer. The words made no sense, but they tugged at her, pulling at memories she didn't know she had. "Vayne, don't," Cassian said, grabbing her arm. His grip was firm, but his eyes were wide, almost pleading. "That thing's not right." She shook him off, her curiosity burning brighter than her fear. "We're already here. I'm not leaving without answers." She reached for the orb, and the moment her fingers brushed its surface, the chamber erupted in light. The voices screamed, and images flooded her mind, flashes of battles, of hooded figures chanting, of a castle under siege. She saw Hogwarts, but not as it was now. It was younger, its towers incomplete, its halls filled with wizards and witches wielding magic she'd never seen. And then she saw her. A woman with Elira's amber eyes, her face framed by chestnut curls, standing in this very chamber. She was holding the orb, and her expression was one of anguish. "It's not yours to take," the woman said, her voice echoing in Elira's skull. "It never was." Elira gasped, stumbling back. The orb pulsed, and the chamber shook, dust raining from the ceiling. Cassian grabbed her, pulling her toward the stairs. "We need to go now." But as they turned, the faces on the pillars opened their eyes, and the chamber came alive. The stone faces on the pillars glowed with an eerie green light, their eyes tracking Elira and Cassian as they backed toward the staircase. The air thrummed with magic, heavy and oppressive, like a storm about to break. Elira's wand trembled in her hand, the Lumos spell flickering as if the darkness itself was fighting back. "What are they?" she whispered, her voice barely steady. Cassian's jaw was tight, his wand raised. "Guardians. Old magic. My grandfather told me about them, wards carved into the castle to protect its secrets. They don't like intruders." The faces began to speak, their voices a discordant chorus that echoed through the chamber. "Who dares disturb the heart?" The words were sharp, cutting into Elira's mind like shards of glass. She clutched her head, wincing, but refused to look away. The faces were moving now, their stone mouths twisting into grimaces and snarls. One, a stern woman with hollow eyes, seemed to fix its gaze on her. "We're not here to steal anything," Elira called out, her voice echoing. "We just want to understand." The guardians didn't respond. Instead, the floor rumbled and the pillars began to shift, grinding against the stone as they moved inward, closing the path to the staircase. Dust and pebbles rained down, and the orb on the pedestal pulsed faster, its light now a frantic strobe. Cassian swore under his breath. "Nice try, Vayne. They're not here for a chat." He flicked his wand, muttering Protego, and a shimmering shield flared around them. "We need to get to the stairs before they crush us." Elira's mind raced. The guardians were ancient, tied to the castle's magic. She'd read about such things in arcane defenses of the founders. They were bound by rules, by intent. She could find the right words. She stepped forward, ignoring Cassian's hissed protest, and raised her wand toward the orb. "I seek the truth," she shouted, her voice ringing with more confidence than she felt. "I'm not a thief. I'm a student of Hogwarts, and I claim the right to know its secrets." The guardians paused, their stone eyes narrowing. The rumbling slowed and the air grew still. For a moment Elira thought she'd done it. But then the woman's face on the pillar spoke, her voice cold and final. "The truth is not yours to claim. Only the worthy may pass." The orb flared, and a wave of energy slammed into Elira and Cassian, shattering the Protego shield. They stumbled back and Elira's wand flew from her hand, skittering across the floor. The pillars resumed their advance, faster now, and the guardians' voices grew louder, chanting in a language Elira didn't recognize but felt in her bones. Cassian grabbed her arm, pulling her toward the staircase. "Move, Vayne. We're not worthy apparently." But Elira's eyes were locked on the orb. The woman's face from her vision flashed in her mind again, those amber eyes, that anguished expression. She couldn't leave, not yet. "The orb," she said, wrenching free of Cassian's grip. "It's the key. I saw something, someone." "Are you insane?" Cassian snapped, dodging a chunk of stone as the ceiling began to crack. "That thing's going to kill us." Elira ignored him, diving for her wand. Her fingers closed around it just as a guardian stone hand reached for her, its fingers grazing her cloak. She rolled away, heart pounding, and pointed her wand at the orb. "Revelio," she shouted, pouring every ounce of will into the spell. The orb glowed brighter and the chamber froze. The guardians halted, their eyes dimming, and the air cleared. A figure materialized above the pedestal. A woman, translucent and shimmering, her chestnut curls and amber eyes unmistakable. She looked at Elira and her expression softened. "You've come far, child," the woman said, her voice warm but tinged with sorrow. "But the path is perilous. The orb holds the castle's memories, and its curses. To claim it is to bear its weight." "Who are you?" Elira asked, her voice trembling. Cassian stood beside her, wand raised, but he didn't interrupt. "I am Elira Vayne," the woman said. "Your ancestor. And this chamber is my legacy, and my prison." Elira's breath caught in her throat. Her ancestor? The name Vayne wasn't uncommon, but she'd never heard of an Elira in her family. Her parents were Muggle-born, their lineage unremarkable by wizarding standards. Yet here was this woman, claiming a connection that felt both impossible and undeniable. Cassian broke the silence, his voice sharp. "Your ancestor? What's she talking about, Vayne?" Elira shook her head, her eyes fixed on Elira's ghostly form. "I don't know. But I'm going to find out." She stepped closer to the pedestal, the orb's light casting her shadow across the chamber. "What do you mean, your prison? What is this place?" Elira's expression grew distant, as if she were seeing something far beyond the chamber's walls. "This is the Chamber of Echoes, built by the founders to safeguard Hogwarts' deepest secrets. The orb is a memory well, a vessel for the castle's history, and its magic. I was its guardian, tasked with protecting it from those who would misuse it. But I failed." "Failed how?" Elira asked, her curiosity burning despite the danger. The guardians were still, but she could feel their presence, watching, waiting. Elira's form flickered, and her voice grew faint. "I trusted the wrong person. A friend, or so I thought. He sought the orb's power for himself, and in my attempt to stop him, I bound my soul to this chamber. The orb cannot be taken, only guarded, by one of my blood." Cassian's eyes narrowed. "So you're saying Vayne's stuck here now? Because she touched the orb?" Elira's gaze shifted to him, and for a moment, her eyes seemed to pierce through him. "Not yet. But the choice is hers. To leave is to abandon the orb to others who will come. To stay is to bear its burden." Elira's stomach twisted. She'd wanted answers, not a life sentence. "I didn't ask for this," she said, her voice rising. "I just wanted to know what was behind the door." "And now you know," Elira said softly. "Knowledge is never free, child." Before Elira could respond, the chamber shook again and the guardian's eyes flared back to life. The unworthy approach, they intoned, their voices a low growl. The air grew heavy and footsteps echoed from the staircase, slow, deliberate, and far too many for just one person. Cassian spun toward the sound, his wand raised. "Who else knows about this place?" he demanded, glancing at Elira. "No one," she said, but her mind raced. The Slytherins in the library, had they followed her? Or was it someone else, someone who'd been watching all along? The footsteps grew louder, a steady rhythm that echoed like a heartbeat in the Chamber of Echoes. Elira's grip on her wand tightened, her knuckles white. Beside her, Cassian's stance was tense, his eyes darting between the staircase and the glowing orb. Elira's ghostly form flickered, her expression unreadable, but her amber eyes held a warning. "Who's there?" Elira called, her voice steady despite the fear coiling in her chest. The guardian stone faces remained still, their glowing eyes fixed on the staircase as if they too were waiting. A figure emerged from the shadows, tall and cloaked, their face obscured by a hood. Behind them, two more figures followed, their wands drawn and glowing faintly. The leaders stopped at the base of the stairs, their cloaks shifting as they raised a hand. The air crackled with magic, and Elira felt a prickle of unease, like static before a storm. "Vayne," the leader said, their voice low and smooth, unmistakably female. "You've saved us the trouble of opening the door." Elira's heart skipped. She didn't recognize the voice, but the tone was sharp, commanding. "Who are you?" she demanded, stepping forward, her wand trained on the cloaked figure. Cassian moved with her, his shield spell flickering back to life. The leader laughed softly, pulling back her hood to reveal a woman with sharp cheekbones and pale blonde hair pulled into a tight braid. Her eyes were a cold gray, and a silver pendant hung at her throat, glinting with a rune Elira didn't recognize. "Professor Vera," she said, her lips curling into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Defense against the dark arts. Though I suspect you've skipped my last few classes, Miss Vayne." Elira's stomach dropped. Vera was new to Hogwarts, hired at the start of the term to replace Professor Quill, who'd retired abruptly. She was strict, brilliant, and unervingly intense, her lessons laced with warnings about the dangers of unchecked magic. But this, sneaking into a hidden chamber in the middle of the night, wasn't in the job description. "What do you want with the orb?" Cassian cut in, his voice sharp. His wand was steady, but Elira caught the slight tremor in his hand. He knew something about Vera, she realized, something he wasn't sharing. Vera's gaze flicked to him and her smile widened. "Mr. Blackthorn. I should have known you'd be here, sniffing around secrets like your grandfather. The orb is a curiosity. A relic of power that belongs in capable hands. Yours, I presume?" Elira said, her tone biting. She didn't trust Vera's smooth words or the way her companions, two older students, a Slytherin and a Hufflepuff by their ties, flanked her like bodyguards. Vera tilted her head, studying Elira. "You've touched it, haven't you? Felt its pull? It's more than a relic, Miss Vayne. It's a key, to power, to knowledge, to the very heart of Hogwarts. And it's wasted on a child who doesn't even know her own heritage." Elira bristled, but before she could retort, Elira's ghostly form flared brighter. "You are not welcome here," Elira said, her voice echoing with authority. The guardians stirred, their stone hands twitching. "The orb is not yours to claim." Vera's eyes narrowed and she raised her wand. A shade of the past, nothing more. Finite incantatum. A pulse of magic shot from her wand, striking Elira's form. The ghost flickered but held, her expression hardening. "You cannot dispel me," Elira said. "I am bound to this place, as you will be if you try to take what is not yours." The guardians roared, their stone mouths opening wide, and the chamber shook violently. Cracks spiderwebbed across the floor, and Elira stumbled, grabbing Cassian's arm for balance. Vera's companions raised their wands, casting shields, but the guardians were moving now, their massive forms detaching from the pillars with a grinding screech. "Run!" Cassian shouted, pulling Elira toward the staircase. But Vera was faster. With a flick of her wand, she muttered Colloportus, and the staircase sealed shut, the stone melding into a smooth wall. "No one leaves," Vera said, her voice cold. "Not until I have the orb." Elira's heart pounded as she scanned the chamber. The guardians were advancing, their stone feet shaking the floor with every step. Vera stood her ground, her wand glowing with a spell Elira didn't recognize, while her companions flanked the pedestal, their faces pale but determined. The orb pulsed faster, its light casting wild shadows across the chamber. "We can't fight them all," Cassian whispered, his back pressed against Elira's. "The guardians, Vera, her lackeys, this is a death trap. Then we outsmart them," Elira hissed back, her mind racing. She glanced at Elira, who hovered near the orb, her expression a mix of sorrow and resolve. If Elira was her ancestor, then maybe the orb responded to her blood, her will. It was a long shot, but it was all she had. "Cover me," she told Cassian, darting toward the pedestal. He cursed but raised his wand, casting Stupefy at the Hufflepuff student, who dodged and returned fire with a jet of red light. The chamber erupted into chaos, spells flying as the guardians roared, their stone hands swiping at anything that moved. Elira reached the pedestal and pressed her hand against the orb. The voices surged again, louder, more insistent. But this time she pushed back, focusing on Elira's words. The orb cannot be taken, only guarded. I'm not here to take you, she whispered to the orb, her voice trembling. I just want to stop her. The orb flared, and a surge of warmth flooded through her. The voices quieted, and a single image filled her mind. A spell ancient and complex, its words burning into her memory. She didn't understand it, but she knew it was meant for her. Sigillum Custodia, she shouted, her wand tracing the pattern she'd seen in the vision. A wave of golden light erupted from the orb, slamming into the guardians. They froze, their glowing eyes dimming, and the chamber fell silent. Vera spun toward her, her face contorted with rage. What did you do? She snarled, raising her wand. But before she could cast, Elira's form surged forward, merging with the orb's light. A shockwave knocked Vera and her companions to the ground, their wands clattering across the floor. You cannot have it, Elira's voice boomed, now amplified by the orb. The Chamber of Echoes is sealed once more. The staircase reappeared, its stones grinding back into place. Elira grabbed Cassian's arm, pulling him toward it. Go, she shouted, but her eyes lingered on the orb. She felt its pull, its promise of answers, but Elira's warning echoed in her mind. To claim it is to bear its weight. Vera scrambled to her feet, her face pale but defiant. This isn't over, Vayne, she spat, her wand glowing again. The orb will be mine. Elira didn't respond. She and Cassian sprinted up the stairs, the chamber shaking behind them. As they reached the top, the door slammed shut, the runes fading into the stone. The tapestry rippled, and the corridor was silent once more, as if nothing had happened. But Elira knew better. The orb was still down there waiting. And Vera wasn't the type to give up. Elira and Cassian stumbled into the corridor, their breaths ragged. The tapestry sealed shut behind them, its threads shimmering briefly before settling back into the image of the knight and wyvern. The castle was quiet again, the oppressive weight of the Chamber of Echoes gone, but Elira's heart still raced. Her hand tingled where she touched the orb, and Elira's words, "Your ancestor, my prison," echoed in her mind. Cassian leaned against the wall, his dark hair plastered to his forehead with sweat. That, he said, catching his breath, was a terrible idea. Elira shot him a look, her chest heaving. You followed me, Blackthorn. Don't act like you weren't curious. He snorted, but there was no humor in it. Curious, sure. Suicidal? Not so much. His eyes flicked to the tapestry and his expression darkened. Vera's not done. You heard her. She's got plans for that orb, and I don't think she cares who gets hurt. Elira nodded, her mind racing. Vera's presence in the chamber wasn't a coincidence. She'd known about the orb, known how to find the door. But how? And why now? Elira's thoughts snagged on Elira's warning about trusting the wrong person. Had Vera been betrayed too, or was she the betrayer? We need to tell someone, Elira said, straightening. Dumbledore. He'll know what to do. Cassian's jaw tightened. No, not yet. He hesitated, then met her gaze, his green eyes sharp. My grandfather, he was involved with something like this. A secret society, obsessed with Hogwarts old magic. He warned me to stay away from anything tied to the Founder's relics. Said they're cursed and anyone who gets too close ends up dead, or worse. Elira frowned. Your grandfather? The one who was an Auror. Cassian nodded, his expression guarded. He wasn't just an Auror. He was part of something called the Order of the Veil. They guarded secrets like the orb, but he left when things got dark. He never told me everything, but he said the wrong people are always looking for power like that. Elira's stomach twisted. A secret society? It sounded like something out of a story, but after the Chamber of Echoes, she wasn't dismissing anything. So you think Vera's one of them? I don't know, Cassian admitted, running a hand through his hair. But she's not working alone. Those students with her, they weren't just random. They're loyal to her, and I've seen them sneaking around the dungeons, meeting with people who aren't students. Elira's mind flashed to the Slytherin and Hufflepuff in the chamber. They'd moved like they were trained, not like typical Hogwarts students fumbling with spells. We need to find out who they are, she said. And what Vera's planning. She gets that orb. She won't, Cassian cut in, his voice firm. Not if we stop her first. Elira raised an eyebrow. Wait, since when are you my partner in this? He smirked, but it was strained. Since you dragged me into that death trap. Besides, you're not bad for a Ravenclaw. A bit reckless but not bad. She rolled her eyes, but a small smile tugged at her lips. Fine. But if we're doing this, we do it smart. No more charging in without a plan. They started down the corridor, keeping to the shadows in case Filch or Mrs. Norris was lurking. Elira's mind was already spinning, piecing together what she knew. The orb was a memory well, tied to Hogwarts history, and to her family. Elira had been its guardian, but she'd failed because of a betrayal. Now Vera wanted it, and Elira was caught in the middle, her blood somehow the key. As they reached the Ravenclaw common room, Elira paused. "Cassian," she said quietly, "why didn't you tell me about your grandfather before? In the library, you acted like you barely knew about the chamber." He looked away, his jaw tight. "Because I wasn't sure I could trust you. Still not sure if I'm honest. But you didn't run down there, and you didn't let Vera take the orb. That's enough for now." Elira nodded, though his words stung. Trust was a fragile thing, and they were both keeping secrets. But for now they had a common enemy, and a mystery that wasn't going to solve itself. The next morning Elira woke with a start, her dreams haunted by glowing orbs and stone faces. The Ravenclaw common room was quiet, the early light filtering through the arched windows. Her dorm mates were still asleep, their soft snores mixing with the crackle of the fire. Elira slipped out of bed, her mind already on the orb and Vera's cold gray eyes. She met Cassian in the library before breakfast, tucked away in a corner near the restricted section. The air smelled of old parchment and dust, and the shelves loomed like silent sentinels. Cassian was already there, flipping through a battered copy of Secrets of the Founders. His tie was still loose and his eyes were shadowed, like he hadn't slept. "Find anything?" Elira asked, sliding into the chair across from him. He pushed the book toward her, pointing to a faded illustration of a crystal orb. "This. It's called a memory well, like your ancestor said. The Founders used them to store knowledge, spells, histories, even fragments of their own minds. But they're dangerous. If you don't know how to handle them, they can overwrite you." Elira's skin prickled. "Overwrite? Like take over your mind?" Cassian nodded. "Or worse. My grandfather's notes mentioned a wizard who tried to use one in the 1700s. He went mad, started speaking in tongues. They found him wandering the forbidden forest, claiming he was Rowena Ravenclaw." Elira swallowed, remembering the voices that had flooded her mind when she touched the orb. "So why does Vera want it? Power? Knowledge?" "Both," Cassian said. "The orb's tied to Hogwarts magic. Control it and you could control parts of the castle, wards, defenses, maybe even the Room of Requirement. My grandfather thought the Order of the Veil was after it to keep it safe, but some of them wanted to use it. Sounds like Vera's one of the latter." Elira's eyes narrowed. "We need to know more about her. Who she is, who she's working with. There's got to be something in the library, records, old journals, anything." Cassian hesitated, then leaned closer, his voice low. "There's a place we could try. The hidden library. It's a rumor, but my grandfather swore it was real. A secret archive only certain professors and students could access. If Vera's tied to the orb, there might be records there." Elira's heart quickened. Another secret? Hogwarts was full of them, and she was starting to think they were all connected. "Where is it?" Cassian glanced around, ensuring no one was listening. "Behind the statue of Gregory the Smarmy, 5th floor. But it's warded. You need a password and I don't know it." Elira grinned, her fear giving way to excitement. "Then we'll figure it out. Let's go."